Not it's called Tyty. Yo.
Yo, what's up, dude?
What up? How are you, dude? How you feeling?
I don't want to talk about it. You want like webcam or something, or?
No. We're just
Okay,
fine
okay.
for a chat.
Cool.
Yeah, I
What's up,
kind of
boys?
wanted to pick your brain a little bit on sort of your thoughts about the changes. And I guess I'll go through like some of the changes and yeah, see what you think
Yeah,
about
sure.
it.
For sure,
So
why not?
the first one would be your thoughts on the onslaught change. Obviously, is like I think the most I think what really is gonna change the meta the most, since everything's sort of revolved around having onslaught early, and also like in general, aside for it just being like a shift in the speedrunning community, like what you feel about it in general, I guess, for the as a player, right? Like you are gonna have to run through the campaign just like all of us a few times this league to level new characters. So yeah, I just want to pick your brain on that a little bit. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so it's not as disparage for most people, I want to say. Back in 3.9, this was 2019 after ExileCon, Onslaught was nerfed to be from like 8 seconds to 4. And so at that point, I remember thinking like, if they're gonna do this to my boy, why don't they just remove it? And
Right.
finally they're getting rid of it, which I think is good for most people. Most people don't want an on-kill buff effect just to make them go faster. Most people want to do big numbers, see big damn, monster die, you know, big loot drops from the ground. But I think it's okay. It makes things like minions and other stuff viable.
Yeah.
I still don't fully understand why they changed Act 5 to no longer have a silver flask. The best thought process I have on that is probably silver flask was taken 100% of the time from the Act 5 quest, and they wanted to offer defensive flasks. But I think it'd be fine if silver flask was reintroduced there, because that was the only thing that made like minions or mines and that kind of stuff like pretty fast, because you could shield charge around quickly.
And sort of going off of what they said about like them having a look at like how they could make onslaught maybe work for certain builds that weren't just, you know, like on kill builds or whatever, right? So like their perspective on things was that like builds that couldn't proc it were at a severe disadvantage compared to builds that could proc it, which in a way I'm pretty sure you can agree with as well. And to some degree I feel like it could also broaden the builds that are more viable in a way, because like you would never consider something that can't proc onslaught before, but now it's actually viable. But do you think there could have been a world where they could have just introduced like silver flask earlier or something like that, right? Because you said you don't know why they removed it, and I agree. I think it's one of the worst changes while leveling, to be honest with you. Like the removal of the silver flask in Act 5. And I'm completely fine with them removing onslaught early, but like, do you think there's a world where they could have added onslaught flask earlier or more quests to get it, as opposed to like what they did now, which is like nobody gets it and everybody's slow?
Yeah, I think there's probably a better alternative here. But overall, I think it's okay. There's a lot of things like minions where they would be never considered before, and part of the issue is that minions just don't have the burst damage that something else like traps or mines or like, you know, some builds that still have access to some speed, where like you're really not going to go minions. I don't think it's actually going to change the meta as much as you would like.
Yeah.
As much as we're going to sit here like, you know, simming Act 5 runs all day long, I imagine we're not going to see very much variation in time. We are in a weird spot though, where because there's so much innovation that can occur, there's going to be a lot of need for testing, and because of the huge race coming up, it's like, okay, well, do you hide strats? Do you stream the strats? Like, what do we do here? This is like an actual big event.
Yeah,
Not
that's
just
true.
like an Act 5 race for a $10 Burger King gift card. It's, you know,
It's like actually like yeah, potentially life-changing thing as well.
yeah. So like, even though I have tech, I can't really talk about it because it's like I don't want to jungle Ryan myself, and I'm sure most people know what it is. I don't think it's like anything undiscovered because it's basically a solved build already. You just go red shirt, but
yeah, makes sense. No, I mean I could see how like you'd be concerned about that for sure. Like sometimes, like you want to get as much advantage as you can possibly afford, right? So it's not only that like you're relying on your mechanical skill, it's also Path of Exile is a knowledge game on top of that. So yeah, I can completely get that. But on
Yeah,
the other hand, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of people who are on like an outside perspective seem to think that like Chris Wilson's right and that this change will bring about change, but like I really don't think very much will change. I think we're gonna be playing the same exact builds we've been playing since like 3.12, except just like in 3.15, it's gonna be the same stuff, just worse.
Just a little
Overall.
slower,
Like,
yeah.
just slower.
Yeah.
For most people, that won't change very much. I think a lot of people will probably go from like, I don't know, a 7-hour Act 10 to like a 7-hour 30 Act 10, which isn't going to change much in the grand scheme of things because everybody's slowing down by that much. But when a speedrun for like Act 5 goes from like consistent 115 to like consistent 122s, that's going to feel really bad from my perspective because I know how much faster I've been able to go for the last few, months.
Yeah, obviously. How do you feel about the targeted nerf to poison concoction? Because that's almost something like that's not even a build that
Yeah,
is like meta for speedrunners. It just feels like a targeted nerf for like a build that's basically just practically like only really used for like leveling. Like yeah, it's good in endgame, but they actually buffed it in endgame in a way. If you can actually overcome the Flask stuff. Basically it's like it adds extra difficulty in using it early, and later on it's like solvable. Like how do you feel about that?
I feel like it's the other way around, where like if I'm using it early, I'm pretty much never running out of flash charges. But like if I use it when it consumes like, GMP greater volley plus Peaconk, like I think it's gonna have more issues there than it is in early game.
Okay, that makes sense. When do you think it would start to fall off? Then
I don't know about necessarily fall off. If you can solve the problem, which I can't because I'm too stupid, I think it'll be really good still. Because I've been a fan of Peaconk since probably like the league it came out. So I've been playing it like since then, basically every single league, and it's actually pretty good. Not for speedrunning in early game because obviously like Armor Brand Krima has taken that spot.
yeah.
But I think that like for level 90 speedruns, if you're not playing Bone Shatter, Peaconk has been a close second. I think the nerf is an interesting way to go about it, rather than just a pure like numerical change. I think it's okay.
Okay.
I don't think it's a target towards racers. I think it's just
It's just like a global nerf for everybody else.
just
Yeah.
a nerf for race, yeah, or for the skill.
I would say like from my perspective, the only concern I have about that is that it's not that big of a deal that essentially you're losing 25% damage if your flasks are down, right? It's like that's all right. Like the skill is still fine. But the real big nerf, in my opinion, is that you get to a situation where most of the time you're just out of life flasks. Like imagine you get to
I thought
Merville
about that.
and you're just like you can't use your life flask, right? That feels bad. It's less of like oh, I'm losing damage on my ability, and more of like I'm dying to Merville because I have no life flasks.
That's exactly my thought process on it. So this isn't necessarily build drama, but I made that Maxwell guide for Peaconk leveling.
Yeah.
And there was a content creator that pointed out like, hey, this guy doesn't immediately rush like the life recovery flask nodes, like the flask recovery nodes.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, okay, this is great and all because there are more valuable nodes, but this leveling guide is written by Tytykiller, and it seems like he assumes that everybody playing it is Tytykiller because most people need all their life flasks. They're gonna do less damage, and they're gonna need to like recover their health way more often. Whereas this build kind of like makes an assumption that like you're just never gonna take damage and you're always gonna have life flasks up.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be kind of a situation like that where it's like, okay, if you're a good player, you're not gonna get hit by like most attacks, and so you're gonna have like 0 life flasks at pretty much all moments in time. It's gonna be the exact same thing as as what it's been like if you've been not taking like flask recovery.
Makes sense. Maybe as like a potential fix, do you know if this works? Maybe you're more familiar with like the mechanics that I am. I mean, you're definitely, but does using a hybrid flask also consume charges?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay. So you can't even get away from like you're literally just kind of hard stuck with them. That's a little bit of a letdown.
I'm pretty certain it does.
Yeah, maybe
I've tried it before, and it did consume them, but that was like many patches ago. I've actually had things that were undocumented in patch notes just completely break over like no change whatsoever because it's in one of those 10,000 bug fixes,
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. It's like there's so much like stuff that this game is like way too, like, I don't blame them at all for this kind of shit. Most of the time it's like also like things that affect you are probably like things that don't affect other people, right? In the same, to the same capacity. I can't really blame them for that shit. But
I'd say for the most part, people are gonna be probably fine.
yeah.
I think the speedrunning change only really affects speedrunners, to a drastic degree, because even though it's not the same speed nerf that we saw in like 315, for example,
Yeah.
it's a lot more like what's the word here? It's a lot more like this is going to affect speedrunners because we as speedrunners we already had enough damage, so we just throw an onslaught and everything. But for most people, I'd say that most people, it's just gonna feel nice to have like actual damage links and, you know, better utility other than just like, oh, I need to go as fast as humanly possible. And we're still gonna have ways of going fast. So
Yeah. I'm definitely not a speedrunner or any of that stuff by any means, but I do prefer going fast on League Star, right? And from my perspective, it has always kind of felt like it's like I choose my League Starter not based on like how fast it runs through the axe. It's based kind of like on what I want to play after, right? Which most people do at the end of the day. And I won't really compromise that too much, but it has always felt kind of bad when it's like, oh, I'm playing traps or I'm playing totems. I'm just screwed. I can't proc onslaught. So to some degree, I feel like this is not necessarily a bad of a change because it equalizes the playing field. But I could definitely see that like the preferred solution for me would be obviously give us a flask then. You know, whereas they're like, no, you just like everybody's slow now. Like, I feel like to some degree that's kind of like an annoying way to tackle problems. Like if you can't have it, nobody can.
yeah, exactly. I think the biggest issue for me is it doesn't do enough to change the meta to the point where like we're going to be doing anything differently. I can imagine we're going to be doing almost the exact same stuff as before, not just in speedrunning, but I mean the patch notes themselves, the skill balance kind of made me a little depressed because it's like, oh, we're still playing Cold Dot and we're still probably playing like some of the same like poison stuff. I know Wither got a huge nerf, but I mean I can't help but imagine that we're still going to be doing the exact same thing as we've been doing for the last 3 years.
Yeah, actually that's probably like the thing that people were hoping for the most, right? Like big meta shakeup.
Yeah.
You know, like I think the main thing that is an issue is the skills, right? Like people are just sick of playing the same skills since forever. You know, it'd be nice to like see like, oh, all of a sudden maybe brands are not the best anymore, but they're like Stormbrand is like actually decent again, or potentially like but I mean on that note, what do you think about bow leveling? Because potentially that's actually like looking pretty decent now, or do you have a sort of like perspective on that? Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I've thought about bow leveling. It seems pretty good, to be honest. It seems like bow leveling is getting better. Melee leveling still seems a bit disparaged because the primary ways of leveling melee probably going to be the exact same, and I don't imagine that's going to change at all.
Yeah.
But then like some proposed ideas I have. Okay. But I think that bow leveling only gets better, right? Because the removal of onslaught means that they are put in a situation where they have to take damage, and I think that's perfectly okay because as a bow character, if you didn't have like the bow, you're pretty much in a spot where like you were forced to take onslaught, you didn't have a damage link there, and you were just like in the mud.
Yeah.
And so now it's like not only do you get a damage link, but you might even get to use like Rain of Arrows or like another skill with the mana node, and I think that's kind of cool. I think it's gonna be kind of fun to level up ranged builds from here on out, provided that they, have access to actual damage.
Yeah, they've only made like improvements for the last few leagues. It does suck to lose the mastery, honestly. That gives you like lucky lightning damage with non-crits, but I think with precise technique now, and access to maybe more arrows early, because that could be nice if you're using like a barrage for like single target, which obviously is where it's lacking. I think it could be kind of cool for both characters for sure. Do you think there's a world in where, like we've seen like Havoc obviously going crazy on bows because he enjoys them, right? But do you think there's a world where that becomes the meta?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I'm not gonna rule it out because that would just be, I think, a little too nearsighted.
Yeah, that's cool.
For the person asking what you level on bows, the setup has always been you go Rain of Arrows with Mirage Archer and Onslaught. Now that Onslaught is gone, you'll probably just use like Added Cold or something. And the only way that you're actually able to deal single target is you have another setup. So you have to have two damage setups. So you have like another Rain of Arrows with Artillery Ballista and then like Added Cold or something else on that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Rain of Arrows feels a
artillery
little weird
ballistas are
though,
good.
because yeah, Rain of Arrows feels kind of weird because like it has like I think 60% damage effectiveness, which is like pretty trash. But you know, what are you gonna do? I've tried using a lightning arrow. I think Vaal skills are really cool, but I don't think you depend on getting a Vaal skill
Yeah.
in leveling. Because if it's between Vaal Rain of Arrows or Vaal Lightning Arrow, I would probably take Vaal Rain of Arrows every single time.
Yeah, you definitely can never plan around Vaal skills. I've had that like many people be like, oh, like the like I'm gonna play Vaal Caustic Arrow, and it's like no, you're not. That's not what it's
You're
intended to
not.
do.
Yeah.
Like you're playing
No.
Caustic Arrow, and then you're pressing Vaal Caustic Arrow on the
Yep.
boss. You know.
Nobody plays like Vaal skills like they used to play like Vaal Fireball, for example. It's just a supplementary like, oh, I have the skill up, I do big bomb AoE here.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't necessarily think. I think that's a good thing, in a way. Like I obviously was like I really enjoyed Vaal skills. I try to play them every time, even when after they nerfed the shit out of them. But like the fact that they don't exist anymore has finally given them the opportunity to create, you know, skills like this. Like where if you look at like Vaal Venom Gyre, that shit's like just amazing, right? It's such a good button to have. It
Yeah.
makes mapping so much more enjoyable and makes bossing as well so much more enjoyable. So as long as like they keep up the thread of like making those actually like good and fun to use, it's nice that that design space has been opened up.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there like a build that you have in mind that you actually want to play this league?
I'm pretty much not playing endgame. I think I'm gonna play like day one of something. I don't know what that something's gonna be. And then after that I'm gonna go do ExileCon practice. I was
Yeah.
going to play with the small group, just in trade. And the group got bigger and then the announcement for ExileCon was released, and so now it's like I will likely just look to keep my head down and just practice, and that's it.
Oh, that makes sense, man. Give yourself the best chance at winning. We're all rooting
Yeah.
for you, bro. I do hope
I'm
you
in
get
a-
that shit going.
Thanks. I'm in a weird spot though where it's in the same spot as the last ExileCon where it's like you are at a huge disadvantage if you stream your strats, and so it's like, okay, I go off stream, but then what happens if you go off stream for like a month and then you don't win the race, and it's like, okay, well, good job. You just cocked yourself. Not
Yeah,
only did you lose, but you
it's,
didn't do anything during that month.
that's a really rough situation to find yourself in, honestly. I mean, especially since like you probably want to be practicing. Like anytime you play PoE, it's like, why would I do anything but practice the race right now?
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just
It's-
like put on stream and fucking do some random shit, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
It's a lot better to just like hard focus practice than it is to just like, oh, I'm gonna start up chat and just like level a build like for funsies.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like as a speedrunner, it's like, okay, where can I save the extra minute, the extra 30 seconds?
I hope there's like something you can practice that is you know, like that does not necessarily include revealing your strats, so that you can still have like stream content and stuff. Because that sounds really rough.
Yeah, it's been a case before in the past where it's like, okay, Armor Krima is the same leveling as it has been for the last 6 leagues, and we're, you know, there's a race coming up, like, whatever, I'll just stream the whatever I'm doing and I'll just be better than everybody else.
Yeah.
But that might not be the case next league, so if it does come to a situation where everybody knows the strats, like, I've thought of just doing practice and then just like hiding VODs, but this is like a speedrunner specific issue.
Yeah, I am for sure. I don't know what, like, maybe just a quick, what do you think about the patch outside of all the leveling stuff?
Outside of leveling, I think the lack of skill balance is disappointing yet again.
Yeah.
I think it's not quite what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think overall player power with the league mechanic will go up. A lot of people have to consider that, like, even though the leveling is going to be slower, you're getting a lot more power based on the league mechanic. It's just that the league mechanic is too slow for anybody in speedrunning to actually do. And so, like, I won't get access to it. And even if I do, like, one node, it's not like I'm going to get, like, mind over matter on, like, the very first node. That's going to be something you have to, like, you know, spend 20 minutes doing whatever the new forge mechanic is. And that just won't happen in a Act 5 run, so...
Yeah, I've actually tweeted at Bex asking them.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. I agree with it because when he did it in like, it would be one thing if he pulled up to the coast and it took that long to charge up the league mechanic, but he pulled up in like a map, no?
Yeah, he was in a map.
Like, the dude was like hard channeling lightning tendrils till like 30 stacks.
Yeah, and it wasn't even fully charged, and most of them they cut half of the charging to make it look faster as well.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that I'm concerned about, that like after one day of clicking that stuff, I'm gonna be like very impatient, let's just say.
Well, if it's that long, it won't be one day, Tuna. It'll be like 3 hours in, you know.
I mean, you just gotta hope that it's like really fun, and I don't know, like the progression system feels good. But
you gotta really hope that the nerf to onslaught and the new momentum gem is gonna be fun, right? It's
yo,
like, oh, I just gotta hope. I just gotta. It's gonna be good, guys. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So I don't wanna be a doomsayer. It's like with D4. Like, I'm disappointed in D4, but I don't wanna like shit on anybody else's fun, and I don't think it's actually gonna be that bad if they get to like the Paragon board in D4. So I think it's gonna be a lot like that, where like it gets better. I just wish I wasn't in a situation where I was saying it gets better.
Yeah, you wish you were just fucking loving it.
Yeah, I wish there was a situation in which I read the patch notes and I was like, oh my god, this is exactly what we needed. Thank you, Chris Wilson. And instead, I'm like, maybe it's not as bad as I like to believe. So I'll play devil's advocate here, and hopefully it's fun.
Yep. Yeah.
You got anything else you need?
What, sorry?
I said, you got any other questions you need?
No, I suppose that's pretty much all in regards to like leveling and stuff like that. If you gotta hop off, I'll allow it. Thank you so much for chatting, bro. Basically,
no
just trying to pick your brain about the leveling stuff, because I feel like people are sort of speaking more for, like, they're saying like, nobody likes this, racers hate it, like all that shit. But it's nice to have like a more perspective of someone who does this every day.
Yeah, for me it's disparaged. For most people, I don't think it'll really affect them that much. I think the bigger issue than us being slower is we're gonna be slower, but we're gonna be doing the same things. That's the biggest issue. Is I don't think it'll actually change very much. I think Cold Dot's still gonna be dominant. I think like Impending Doom's still gonna be like really good. Like almost all the same endgame builds for the last 3 years are still gonna be viable, and you're still gonna be playing like Cold Dot.
Yeah.
Garbage like that, and you're still gonna be playing DD or RF. The issue is just that you're going to be doing that, but you're going to be leveling it slower.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would be worth doing the league mechanic. If you're like a casual, sure. I don't see what's wrong with like farming up a little bit more currency or being a bit stronger. But as someone who does Act 5 runs, if you can do the Act 5 run without doing skill points, if you can do the Act 5 run without doing like lab, if you can do the Act 5 run without doing like some weird currency farming or like powering up your character in some substantial way, that's essentially just a time waste, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, from my perspective, if I'm doing an any percent run, which is likely what the ExoCon race will be, it's like we're just doing the game, but worse. So
definitely.
But yeah, that's it for me.
How much can you get away with? Like, how little, right, can you get away with? And it's like a sort of power versus time dynamic.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think for the majority of people, like, if you put your wand in and you're pretty much guaranteed to double your damage, like, why the fuck wouldn't you do that? But then again, like, you might get in a situation where speedrunners might also potentially do that, if it's actually like worth the time investment, obviously, right? Maybe that's something to get excited about, dude. Click the button for 15 seconds, double your power.
Ooh, then use the same weapon for like 10 more levels and you click the button. Alright, anyways. Yeah, let me DM me if you have any more questions. I'm sure you get a bunch of stuff that you need done for max roll. I'm in a weird position where I can't do shit until we have like all the tools out.
I don't
available. But...
Yeah, I was also gonna ask you like what the hell is gonna happen to the guides that are leveling with poison concoction.
I mean, I basically have to like. I think you can still level with Peaconk. I just have to rewrite like almost all of them.
I think you still use Peacock, to be honest.
Yeah, I think
I
you
don't
still
see a
probably level those
world
Peaconk.
where you use like TR or
Yep.
I don't see it.
Same issue as what I said before. Like you're still gonna be doing the same garbage. It's just gonna be worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. See you later.
All right. Cheers,
Okay.
Tyler. Oh, you wrote. See ya.